Can you talk about your experience working with small businesses and trying to make them viable in the economy here?
Well, there are a couple of things that make Michigan attractive for small business. One is our workforce. We do have an educated workforce here, and I've talked to a number of business people who are pleased with the work ethic that's found in Western Michigan. And so there are many people who want to locate here. But a big issue is the tax structure that we have here in the state of Michigan. Bottom line is what brings people to take the risk to start a business. You go into business because you think you're going to make money. You go out of business because it didn't work. You didn't make money. And so the tax structure is huge in whether a person takes that risk to get into business. Can he afford to pay his employees? Can he afford to pay the government the taxes? And can he still then be successful and still make money? And so his salary structure is important to him, his tax bill, the price of his goods, the price of whatever it is he's selling, and now can I make money doing this or not? If I can't, I'm out of business. So the state has to be very mindful of how burdensome are the taxes. And when we got rid of the single business tax, which we heard over and over again, this is the worst tax in the country. So we got rid of it. All the businessmen were happy about it, but we ended up replacing it with the Michigan business tax, and that's a terrible burden for them too. And we're trying to find a way to reduce that Michigan business tax, but with the drop-off in the taxes that have been collected here in the state of Michigan, financially we can't do that. Yet, it might be the best strategy for us because then businessmen, small businessmen, may take the risk. More and more of them may take the risk and create more jobs if they didn't worry that they would be driven out of business by their costs. So that is probably the big struggle that we face in creating jobs is how can we reduce that Michigan business tax so that more people feel confident to start a restaurant, to start an insurance company, to start a repair shop. With the big three scaling back, I think there are lots of opportunities for repair shops to pop up, especially in rural areas where dealerships have been closed. I think it's a tremendous opportunity, but you have to have the confidence that you're going to be successful in doing that, and that's why I think tax policy is so important.
Well, one of the biggest things that concerns me, and I'm sure many people, is that there are a number of unfunded mandates that come from the federal government, but there are a lot of other things, whether they be Medicaid, they be money for education, transportation, and even with the stimulus money for extending unemployment insurance. Explain a little bit your position about how, in a lot of ways, these things have strings attached or have a burden and obligation from the state. I know that it's a real challenge for the people who've been not only unemployed but chronically unemployed in terms of how do we sustain keeping that unemployment compensation going at a time where we're talking about how there's a shrinking revenue stream to be able to make that happen. So can you explain some of the challenges you have to make?
That unemployment issue is one that jumps out at us because there is a big pot of stimulus dollars that could come to the state of Michigan if we change our eligibility rules on unemployment. but that has a long-term effect on those businesses. We'd grab those dollars for a year, or maybe it's 2 years, we would get this money, but the legacy of that decision goes on for years and years, and that means that those businessmen have to take more money and put it into the pot, which makes it their bottom line more and more difficult, and another burden that's placed. We just talked about this week a tax on doctors, which would draw down more money from Washington, D.C. They say, if you put that tax on, you can have these extra dollars. Well, that's tempting, but what does it do for the medical profession in how they're able to do their work here in the state of Michigan? And doctors can move to other states where the financial situation may be a little bit better for them. And doctors are businessmen themselves. They look at, where can I best make a living? And we want to be able to keep our doctors here in the state of Michigan. We've got rural areas that are crying for doctors and nurses. We want to make sure that they see Michigan as a good place in which to do business. So, again, these strings that are sometimes attached to what looks like free money really isn't free, and has long-term implications on whether Michigan is viable for the businesses that we have.
So this isn't really a partisan issue. This is a dollars and cents issue in terms of not just the short-term gain, but the long-term obligations.
This is about creating an economic climate for people to be successful in our state. Many people think that the government creates jobs. Well, the only jobs we create are jobs where you work in our departments and work, but out in the business world, we don't create those jobs, but we can create a climate where job creators, businessmen, feel confident to open a business, feel confident that they can be successful here and not be driven into bankruptcy. That's what we're trying to create, is that freedom, that openness, that hope of success, so that they can hire 5 people or 10 people, or maybe, and I'm working with a company right now that is interested in coming to Muskegon, maybe upwards to 1,000 people, because they're confident they can do it in the state of Michigan. This particular company could go to New York, and we're competing with New York right now to have it come to Muskegon, Michigan. And we think we have a real shot at doing it, but they have to trust that they're going to be successful here. And that may mean some tax breaks of some kind, because tax policy is very important to their bottom line.
Well, let's look over the horizon and some of the new growth that we see happening, and maybe places for opportunity. For example, the environment, tourism, and energy. These are all really rich subjects. I don't know if we have the time for all of this, but can you talk about how things have changed during your time in office in terms of Michigan's position in those subjects?
Well, I think that alternative energy has been a new booming area, and right now windmills are a big thing in Michigan, and I know there are many people in western Michigan taking a look at not only creating energy with windmills located on their property, but other folks who are interested just in putting windmills up to generate power for their house, or we saw it on Myers on Norton that they put it on their building to save energy or create energy for their building. But this is a whole new field, and we have factories now that some of them used to produce parts for the automobile industry. Now they're converting to parts for windmills, and we're producing windmills here in Michigan. So people are making money manufacturing windmills. People are making money or even saving money by putting windmills up. And so it's been a good thing for our state. And I think that that's an industry that will continue to grow. We've seen the ethanol industry grow, the biodiesel industry grow. We're looking at now cellulosic to produce, well, I don't want to call it a gasoline, it's an ethanol, but using woodlots to create the ethanol rather than using corn to create the ethanol. And up in the UP, they can do with all the woodlots they've got there, or northern lower peninsula, we could create a tremendous amount of fuel for our automobiles and not be so reliant on the fuel coming over from the Middle East or wherever it's coming from. And again, Michigan products, and creates more success here in the state of Michigan. I think the future is bright.
Well, that was good. Thank you for joining us, Senator VanWorkom.
Okay.
I really appreciate your being here with us, and I know there's many more subjects we could talk about, but I want to be responsible with your schedule as well. So let's look forward to seeing you in the future, and I wish you good health.
We'll come back again some other time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the Decision Makers.